So,
Hello.
good afternoon and welcome to the next session of Interact Amsterdam Virtual Festival. We've already had a fantastic session today from Rachel Hardwick of Booking.com, and we're really excited for our next talk, which is making strategic decisions with jobs to be done. This from a speaker, a huge fan of here at Nomensa, and I've wanted at Interact, I think, since we started back in way back in 2014, which is Joe Leech. Joe coaches product teams and execs at big organizations and startups to help them build the right things in the right order for the right reasons. In this talk, Joe will talk you through a business-friendly and practical user-centered design approach that helps uncover user needs and align an organization around the customer and the jobs they need to do. Please do get involved and say hello to each other in the chat. Make sure you switched your chat settings to panelists and attendees so everyone can see your messages. And do let us know if there are any audio issues or any issues with the stream, and we'll get that fixed as soon as possible. Please also ask lots of questions using the Q&A box. I'll be asking these to Joe at the end, and I'll try and get through as many as I can. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Joe to kick things off.
Thank you very much, Henry. How are we all doing, everybody? Good to see you. So can you let me know where you are? Drop a little hello in the chat. See if I recognize any names in here as well. Come and say hello. Who you are, where you're from. Oh, Bruges. I love Bruges. What a beautiful place. Nice to see you. So again, make sure you need to put all panelists and attendees in the chat there. Oh, hello, Simon. Nice to see you, Simon from the Mensa there. Anybody else here today? Come and say hello. Porto, all the loveliest places. Nuremberg, nice. Amsterdam. Come and say hello. Hello, everybody. Great. Oh, here we go. It's all coming through. Copenhagen, Israel. Wow. All over the world. That's been the lovely thing about this. One of the few nice things about this lockdown is we've all been able to come to events like this that are all over the world and meet everybody from all over the place. Hello, Manchester. Do love Manchester. Oh, somebody from Bristol. Hello. I'm in Bristol too. So I'm in Bristol in the UK. Israel, Copenhagen, Sao Paulo. I think, Chris, you win for being the furthest away at this point, which is pretty good. Great stuff. Okay. Scotland. Right, good to see you, everybody. Okay, so as Henry quite rightly said, then I'm going to talk to you today about jobs to be done and why I love it, how I've used it, and how you can use it too. So I'm going to start by talking about this wallpaper here. So this is a famous wallpaper by a London company called Cole & Son. And Cole & Son are famous for producing some fantastic wallpapers. And this is actually a wallpaper that my wife helped to design. She's a very talented wallpaper designer and wallpaper hanger. In fact, this is one of hers up here behind me. Oh, actually, talking of things behind me, I should warn you, if my front door goes, my very sleepy dog here, he looks very sleepy and he won't move, he will turn into a hellhound and he'll shout and he'll wail extremely loudly and I will flinch. It's just the way things are at home at the moment, but he will. He's very sweet, but if the front door goes, there's an Amazon delivery, he's going to turn into a crazy dog. All right, back to the wallpaper then. So this is one that we're looking at on my screen here called Palm Leaves, and it's one my wife helped to design. My wife is an incredibly capable, talented woman. In fact, actually, she moved away from wallpaper design to wallpaper hanging, and she was one of the best wallpaper hangers in the world for a long time. Extraordinarily difficult thing to do. She even did a lot of A-list celebrities. She did Liam Gallagher's, decorated his house, and various other famous people too. So she's done a fantastic amount of stuff in her time. And she's a very capable, practical woman. And me, I'm not. I mean, look at these fingers. My wife calls me office soft finger boy. I don't do anything practical. And our daughter was born about 3.5 years ago, and she was 3 weeks early. So if any of you have got kids, you know how life changes quite dramatically when kids come along. And sure enough, yeah, my little one, she turned our world upside down. And being 3 weeks early didn't make things any easier for us here. I still feel like I'm 3 weeks behind in my life. But anyway, my wife asked me to finish decorating my little one's bedroom. So she said, can you decorate the nursery for me? I can't do it anymore. I was like, fine, yeah, I can do that. Need to put some pictures up. First thing I'll do, I'll put some pictures up. I need a drill. And the drill my wife's holding here, she'd lent it away to somebody she'd worked with, so we didn't have her drill. So I had to go and buy a drill. So what does any geek do? They go on the internet and they look for places to buy drills. So I went to B&Q. And B&Q here, if you know B&Q, it's the UK equivalent of Home Depot. It's a DIY store, a hardware store. And I thought, well, I can look for a drill here. How hard can it be to do this? So I thought, looking at this drill, okay, this looks like an interesting drill. The DeWalt XR cordless, blah, DC. Anyway, again, looked at this, thought, okay, let's have a look at the features. What does this drill do? Okay, it's got 15 torque settings. No idea what that is. I do like to talk, but it's not the talking I think that I understand here. It's got charge time assist. It's got a soft grip. So, okay, I like a soft grip. That's something I can get my head around. And again, nothing here to really help me. So I thought, I'll look at the reviews like most people do. Let's have a look at the reviews here. This is a review from Heather. The best drill ever. Okay, I can get on board with this. This best drill I've ever owned has made woodworking so easy, I've actually built myself a new hay store for my horses. Wow, I thought, okay, well, if Heather can build a new hay store for a horse with this drill, how hard can it be for me to put a picture up with this drill? This must be the most fantastic drill. If she can do that, this is the drill for me. Look at those scores, 5 out of 5 for everything. Okay, and as I was putting this up, this famous quote was going through my head. Now, Theodore Levitt is a famous economist, and he is a behavioral economist. In fact, he started a lot of the behavioral economics movement. And this is a famous quote from him. Anybody know the punchline to this quote? Drop it in the chat. Do you know what this is? People don't want a 1/4-inch drill. What do they want, according to Theodore? Anybody know the punchline to this? Drop it in the chat if you do. Yeah, 1/4-inch hole. That's the one. Okay, and it's famous, and it's of course it's true. You're looking basically for results. That's what you're trying to do at this point. You don't need a drill, you need a hole. That's really what you've bought the drill for. But as this was happening, I was thinking, this doesn't quite feel right to me. As I was butchering the wall with this drill, you can kind of see there where it skidded across the wall, and I made a big hole over here which didn't really fit a plug, and I was making a real mess of the wall. And I was thinking, do you know what? I don't need a hole. A hole is not what I need. A hole isn't the goal in this situation. Here, this lady, she doesn't need a hole. This is not what she's trying to do, is to dig a hole. These folks here, the hole is not the goal here. They're trying to fix the water or the electricity in the street. The hole isn't the goal. You know, trying to escape from prison here. Again, the hole isn't the goal. The goal is to escape from prison. And this stuff was going around my head when I was trying to butcher these walls. And again, say it with me, folks. The hole is not the goal in these situations. It's a step on the way towards that final goal, but it's not the final result. And this was all going through my head when I was using this drill. And about the same time I was destroying the walls of my daughter's room, which, by the way, is next door, this way, I was doing some work with an organization in New York City, famous gallery called Moma. And what I do in my job and my role is I help organizations. Basically, I'm a coach. So I coach organizations to do better work. I help organizations, as Henry quite rightly said at the start, do the right things in the right order for the right reasons. So I coach people at the moment, like I've just finished working with Booking.com, rental cars up in Manchester. I work with Raspberry Pi Foundation. I've worked most recently with people like Go Henry, HelloFresh, and I advise these organizations and really help them decide and make better choices. My background before that is I led a number of large-scale redesigns. I led the redesign of the train line in 2010, of Marriott in 2014. That was across 36 countries, 18 languages. And I've worked on a number of large-scale redesigns for people like Money's Supermarket in the UK, Disney across Europe. So I've worked on a lot of large-scale, user-centered research, redesign, relaunch projects over the years. Oh, and I've also, a specialty of mine as well, is I also help organizations when things go really quite badly wrong. So they might launch something and it goes down badly and it gets in the newspapers and in the press and there's lots of issues. So again, if you ever need any help, if you need a fixer, take my number, take my email address, I can help. Okay. And as I was putting these and destroying my daughter's walls, I was working, as I mentioned, with the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. And I was working on two things with them. They were trying to, number one, get the lines, the queues outside down to more manageable sizes. Because if you've ever been to MoMA in New York, and have you been to New York to Museum of Modern Art? I miss traveling. You know that the queues are often around the block, the lines around the block to get into MoMA. So we looked at dealing with that problem. And the second problem we were looking at with them as well was the fact that a lot of the money they get from their donors and from their trustees comes with a view to improving the lives of New Yorkers. And New Yorkers weren't going to MoMA, and they weren't sure why. And so we started talking about more competition, who the competition is for MoMA, what people were doing if they weren't going from MoMA. Yeah, I know. I miss New York City too. What were people doing if they weren't going to MoMA? So who do you think that MoMA thought was their competition? Who did you think they thought they were competing against? Any guesses, and stick it in the chat. McDonald's. Not quite, Thomas. Oh, nice to see you, by the way, Thomas. Not McDonald's, no. No, they weren't that. The Guggenheim, that's where they were. They've started to think like places like the Guggenheim or the Met or people like that as well. And then people started saying things, well, maybe more things like Broadway, theaters, or maybe movie theaters. And this is the world we started to get into. So in the end, we started looking at, well, what is it that New Yorkers are doing when they could be going to MoMA? And again, most New Yorkers work, professional people, so they've got time to go to MoMA either at the weekends, which they don't tend to. They tend to stay in the boroughs they live in, or they'll go off to work in the evenings. And so who do you think MoMA is competing with in the evenings? And again, this was a surprise to MoMA. I think, yeah, MoMA's got it right there. It was in fact Netflix. Netflix was their biggest competition. And this was a bit of an eye-opener to all of us, really. And the way of thinking about this is that both MoMA and Netflix are doing the same. People come to choose each of these services to do the same job. Okay, both MoMA and Netflix serve the same job for people. And that job is as simple as this. I want something interesting to do with my partner on Friday night. Now, there are many other things that you could do on a Friday night with your partner that are not going to MoMA or watching series Orange is the New Black on Netflix. But what we were seeing is that people were thinking they might, oh yeah, it's Friday, we should go to MoMA, let's do that. And then maybe they'd just be getting ready to go out. They'd put Netflix on. Before they knew it, they'd watched 4 episodes of Orange is the New Black and the evening was over. Okay. Netflix are extremely good at making sure you stay watching what they do. They're really good at that. And once we understood that and we started looking at this job, we tried to help MoMA understand, well, how can you better compete with Netflix in this situation? So we started looking at a different set of marketing and ways of talking about why you can go to MoMA. Basically go and do something more interesting than watching TV. If any Brits here are my age, you might remember a TV program called Why Don't You? We called it the Why Don't You Project. And basically it was, why don't you stop doing something, sitting on the sofa and watching Netflix, get out of your house, go to MoMA. Okay. And it was a real eye-opener for me because, again, the most successful user experience and product managers, it doesn't matter how good you are or how good your product is. If nobody's using it, it doesn't matter. Okay. And that was the challenge that MoMA were facing. They had an amazing product in terms of the gallery and the art that was in it. But if New Yorkers weren't going, they weren't successful. And what I liked about Jobs to be Done, in a way that Jobs to be Done talks about jobs, is you hire a product and service to do a job. And we use the word hire. Why do you think we use the word hire in Jobs to be Done? Why hire? Have a think about it. Why is that? And we talk about hire as being something that's temporary. Okay. So you may be, again, watch Netflix, maybe watch Netflix every night. You probably don't. But every night, Netflix has basically got to reacquire you as a customer, to regain your attention, to remind you that you should be watching Netflix, which is, again, why, if you're a Netflix subscriber, you still will see adverts for Netflix on TV and on YouTube and other places, even if you're a subscriber, because, again, they know they have to re-win you every evening or every time you want to come back. Yeah. And we think of something better to come. You're right. Felt exactly right in that situation. And the same is true with MoMA. MoMA might get you to come this Friday to visit the museum, but maybe not next month. They have to continually keep winning you to come back, hiring you to come. You have to keep rehiring these products and services to come back. And that's what I like about Jobs to be Honest. It talks about the temporary nature of a product and service. It doesn't allow you to get complacent thinking, yeah, high five, everybody, we've got 10,000 customers, because you haven't. You've got to continually keep winning those customers. They keep staying with your products and service. And a key part of Jobs to be Done is this thing called the timeline. And what I like about the timeline is it's comprised of 2 parts. At the top here, we've got events and triggers push you to phases at the bottom. So you've got phases like passive looking, active looking, deciding, consuming, and enjoying the product. And what Jobs to be done can help you do is to identify which phase people are in. So, for example, down here, the first thought might be, oh, we should do something this weekend, darling. Yes, we should do something this weekend, shouldn't we? Let's do something Friday night. Yeah, let's do something Friday night. Let's have a think about it. And maybe you have that conversation on the Sunday before, the weekend before. And that is the first thought about something you should be doing. And passive looking means maybe you ask some friends or ask some colleagues, what should we do Friday? Oh, you should go to this restaurant, or you should go and see this movie, or you should go to Moma. Or there's this great series on Netflix. Go and watch that. That's passive looking. And then an event will happen and it'll push you into the next phase. And that event might be something as getting an email from Netflix saying that Orange is the New Black is a new series has come out. Or it might be getting an offer from Moma saying, exclusive, skip the lines, skip the queues for New Yorkers on Friday evening, or New Yorkers only events, or something like that. There might be something that pushes you into the next phase, and that phase might be active looking, and that active looking might putting you into doing things like Googling, oh, something to do on Friday night in New York, or you're actively going out and seeking things that you might want to do. And then another event might happen, and that event might be, it's Thursday, and you start talking to your partner again. Oh yeah, we should sort this out tomorrow. Let's sort it out tomorrow. And that event then pushes you into the next phase, which happens on the Friday, deciding what to do. Okay, you're weighing up. Oh, should we just have a quiet evening? Should we go to Moma? But then another event will push you into that point of hiring that product and service. That could be an email, that could be an advert, that could be a conversation. But the key thing with the timeline, and the thing I like about it, is it comprises two elements, which is both an event or a trigger that pushes you into the next phase, but also the actions and the things you do in each individual phase. And it's a fantastic tool for that. And it's relevant to all of the products that you're working on as well. Everybody goes through this when they're looking for a product or a service to hire to fulfill a job that they might have. So back to drills again then. My drill problem. So supposedly the average power drill is used from somewhere between 6 and 20 minutes in its entire lifetime. Now, that power drill that I bought earlier on, that was designed for consumers, for DIY home people like me. Okay, there are many drills and there are many websites and online stores that cater to professionals. But the site that I showed you there, B&Q, is designed like Home Depot is for DIYers. And the same is true that the bulk of drill sales go to people like us, just regular people in our house who want to buy a drill. They don't go to professionals. And so if you look at this particular timeline for things like drills, one of the key things and the great things about the timeline is there's also loops back. You can also drop back into an earlier phase. So for example, I hired that drill to put the picture up in my daughter's room, but I was not satisfied. I was consuming it. Satisfaction wasn't there. So I jumped back earlier into that timeline to look for something else to solve that problem for me. Again, the timeline is linear, but it's also the ability for you to jump back, for people to jump back earlier into any other phase to keep looking for another solution to that problem. And I'd spent, £90 on that drill already. And the concept of that within Jobs to be done is called the little hire. And the little hire is where you hire a product or a service to do a job, but you don't stick with that product and service. Now, I spent £90 on that drill. I could have taken it back to the shop if I wanted to. I could have returned it. But equally, I'm probably not going to recommend that drill to anybody else trying to decorate their daughter's or child's bedroom. I'm not going to recommend it to them. Okay. And it looks like on the surface that drill manufacturer has been successful. It sold me a drill. But if you look at it again, if I use that drill for between 6 to 20 minutes in my lifetime, that's not a successful product. That's not a product I'm going to recommend. If I liked Net Promoter Score, I'd suggest you use that to understand the fact that people might buy your product, but may not be satisfied with that product. This is the concept of the little hire. You see this all the time in app design. Okay. And I've worked on this problem a lot with startups. Is somebody might download their app. 10,000 people might download your app. But if nobody's using it ongoing, this problem here, 25% of downloaded apps are used only once, that's not a successful product. That's the little hire in action. Okay, it's called the little hire because it looks initially like a success, but the reality is ultimately it's not a success. Okay, and startups can raise money on 10,000 app downloads. Okay, something's extremely popular, everybody downloads it, and they're talking about it all over Twitter and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. Everybody's talking about your product, thousands and thousands of downloads, but then 2 weeks later, nobody's using it. That's the little hire, and it's extremely dangerous to startups. It suggests you've got product market fit, but ultimately you've not got product market fit. The little higher, dangerous one to look out for. So back to our drills again. And as I said that before, the hole is not the goal. The drill got to me a point where I created a hole in my wall, but that was not where I needed to finish. I needed to put a picture up in my daughter's bedroom, and it didn't help me get there. And what I like about jobs to be done, and the second part of jobs to be done, is this concept of different types of jobs. You have functional jobs, you have emotional jobs, and you have social jobs. Now, functional jobs are easy. Okay, we are all over functional jobs when we're creating and understanding user needs. Okay, user stories are basically a way of describing functional jobs. You know, I want to put a picture on the wall. Functional, simple, straightforward stuff, but it's missing the point of what's going on. Okay, here's an example of a functional job. Okay, this is called a job story, and it's a way of expressing the jobs that we talk about here. So when I'm not skilled, at home, tired after a long day, help me to put up a picture confidently and easily and in the right place and not crooked, so it's straight, so I can make my daughter's nursery look nice. What I like about job stories is they're a lot broader, they're a lot more rich, there's a lot more context to them. I really like that about job stories. And you contrast them with user stories, which are designed to be brief, succinct, without ambiguity. Fantastic if you're handing these to a development team to build things, but not very good for describing the problem you're trying to address. They're not very good for coming up with a solution. Great for building something, but not very good for coming up with a solution. You can see the differences between the two of them here. There's no color, there's no interest, there's no context within the user story. If you look at the job story, there's plenty of that. If you're giving that to a designer or you're taking that into a design sprint, you can see immediately what you're trying to do. You've got a lot more richer context rather than making a hole in the wall. Again, no context, no helpfulness there. I mean, don't get me wrong, user stories are great in the right context when you're building things, but not when you're planning things. So how do we get to the end goal? How do we do that? Now, this is my favorite piece of research. I know there's lots of you researchers on here. I came from a user experience research background. And so this is the most useful research technique that I have ever come across. It's called the 5 whys or the why ladder. It's great. I wrote about it here. I'll stick that in the chat for you all folks as well. And what the 5 whys talks about here in this situation is it talks about ways of getting to the ultimate job that sits underneath what's going on here. Okay. It's a great way of asking a simple question, why, to get to the root cause of what's going on. So ask me, why am I buying a drill? I want to buy a drill. I want to buy a drill because I want to make a hole. Straightforward stuff. Okay, so far so good. Now, Theodore, the hole is not the goal here. We've not reached the end state. There's a couple more questions why we can ask as we keep going. Why? I want to put up a picture. That's why I want to make a hole. Or maybe in Heather's case, I want to build a hay store for my horse, but it gets you closer to what the person is trying to achieve. And I ask the question, well, why? Why do I want to put up a picture? Because my partner asked me to. We've all been there, okay? Again, that's why. Why did your partner ask you to do it? Well, to make my daughter's new nursery look beautiful. You can ask, well, why? Well, my daughter was born 3 weeks early. Okay, why? You can start to see how you get a much wider, richer context by asking a simple question and digging deeper into what the actual user need is. This is not rocket science. Certainly it's not neuroscience. I'm an ex-neuroscientist myself. It's simple ways of getting to the true job that people are trying to do. Simple, straightforward, yet extremely effective in terms of getting to the user need, in terms of what you're trying to do. I love this technique. Works great. Anybody else use this? It's called the ladder interview and it's fantastic. You might have read about it in the Lean Startup. In the Lean, they talk about it a lot when they're looking for faults and blames and issues and problems. They ask the 5 whys. It's very well used, very well versed, very business friendly way of understanding what the problem is. And you can start to see when you build it up, different products work at different levels of the why ladder. So you can see things like where are my drill sits up here. It's great for making holes. But yet products fit further up that why ladder. Over here, for example, no more nails, or this is a product where you can just stick some Velcro to the wall and use it that way. I'll talk about it a bit more in a minute. Again, that fits at the next level up the ladder. It's more innovative because it's getting closer to the job that I'm trying to do. Again, my partner asked me to do something. You could start putting together, I don't know, a to-do list for you and your partner for jobs around the house. That could be a product or a service that helps solve this job. Equally, we could go right to the top here to make my daughter's new nursery beautiful. You can look at a product and service that can meet that job. And that could be somebody coming, like a a, a nursery design service for new parents. Come and we will design your whole nursery for you, and then we will come in and paint it and put pictures up and make it look lovely for your kids. Because again, when your children are on the way, your life is very, very, very difficult and very, very difficult. But you can start to see how different products and services further up the Y ladder are going to be innovative. You can see where innovation comes from a really basic questioning technique from people. And again, you can start to see how different products fit further up that Y ladder and how drills and No More Nows compete with each other, but they're competing with each other in very different ways. Yeah, it is worth mentioning. People get a bit annoyed when you apply the 5 whys technique. It's often used a lot in police interrogation as well. You just got to do it gently and don't be too dogmatic about it. And if you can stop between 3 and 4 whys, if you start hearing things about basically food, sex, things like that, you know you've got to the root cause of what's going on. So back to my drills then, and back to drills as a whole. There is nothing on this drill here that talks about in any way putting pictures up. There's nothing on there that matches that Y ladder of what I'm trying to do in terms of my job. Nothing in here helps, okay? I know I got the max metal drilling capacity of 30 millimeters. I don't care, okay? Now you can see if they were usability or user testing this, they might say, oh, what do you think do people know what 30 millimeters of max masonry drilling capacity is? Oh, let's do some user research to see if our users understand what max masonry drilling capacity is. And you could run a whole study on that. And again, I don't care about that. That's not really what I'm trying to do. Again, you could be doing research, but if you're doing research at the wrong level of that ladder, you're not going to be successful. You're really not. All right, so the other 2 types of job that I talked about then are emotional and social. And these are the things that come out when you're trying to look at the Y ladder. So I'm putting up a picture, help me feel not stupid or overwhelmed, that I don't have the skills, so I can feel confident that I can finish this job, that I can do this job myself. Help me feel that way. I want your product to do that for me. Okay, that's how I feel. Then we have social jobs. So when I'm 6 months in, make sure it doesn't fall off the wall. We've all been there. We've put something on the wall. A few months later, it falls off the wall. It's embarrassing. I'm going to feel really stupid in front of my dad, who's a very strong, handy DIYer. If the picture falls off my daughter's room, I want to feel proud when I show my parents around that the pictures are not crooked, that the walls look great. I want to feel that pride. It's a social way that I want to show and talk about this job. Social and emotional jobs are extremely strong. Okay, they're extremely strong ways of convincing people to use your product and service. If you address these needs, your product and service is going to be successful. Functional jobs, anybody can do and are probably already doing it. Drills, they only talk to functional things. They don't talk about social and emotional things as part of it. And again, this is my wife's drill. So I mentioned to you earlier, my wife had lent her drill out to somebody else. The drill came back. Now have a look at the pictures on this drill. This is great. So look, I can 100% charge. I can put up 230 screws. Great. It's got 2 gears. Fantastic. I didn't even know that drills needed gears. I knew my car needed gears, but I didn't know a drill did. Again, talking to professionals, fine. The majority of drill sales are to people like us. I don't care about 2 gears. I want to be able to put a picture up with this thing. And you look at it, and what's happening here is drill manufacturers are copying each other. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to one-up each other. The first drill I showed you was 18 volts. This is 10 volts. Okay, yeah, our drill's better than their drill because it goes up to 18 and not 10. I've got no idea. I don't care if it goes up to 11 or 18 or whatever. It doesn't matter because it's arbitrary. It doesn't matter in this context. I don't care about 2 gears or 15 torque settings. Ultimately, I don't care. And we all know this to be true. People don't care about features, yet we still do this. We still do this stuff. We don't focus on competitors and features. This happens all the time. Still happens to the people I work with now. Focus on users and their jobs. Simple, straightforward. We all know this to be true, and this is where success comes from. It doesn't come from copying everybody else or focusing on the features you've got. It's users and their jobs, and more specifically, their social and their emotional jobs. That's where the strength comes of applying a theory and an approach to that jobs to be done. Emotionally, it's worth it. It's a lot stronger than 15 torque settings. So the product I ended up using then. This is what I went with in the end to put my daughter's pictures up. I love this stuff. I'm trying to get Unibond No More Nails to sponsor me at this point in my life because they are fantastic. But again, if you look at this product, you can start to see not only the functional jobs, easy, but the emotional and social jobs as well. Let's zoom in a bit and you can see the function, you can see the emotional ones. Look, okay, up to 2 kilos per strip. That's telling me it's not going to fall off the wall. Okay, it's going to be sturdy. 2 kilos is strong. They've even got the weight. If you don't know what 2 kilos means, you can see that there's a weight there to tell you it's going to cope with a heavy load. Great way of understanding what's going on. It's removable. You can see that it's removable. Removable means I can move it. If it's not straight, I can just shift it and it's going to be fine. Okay. If I'm in a rental property, if I'm renting, I don't have to destroy the walls by making holes and lose my deposit. I can just use this to put pictures up. Again, it's delivering to the same job, but on a different level in that ladder. Great tool. Great stuff. And the best thing about it, £3, €3. And that brings us on really nicely to the third part of jobs to be done that I really like. And it talks about these 4 forces of progress. And the 4 forces of progress are great for understanding your product in the context of your competitor's product and how to get people to switch from your competitor to you. And more importantly, how they can switch away from you to your competitor. So you've got 2 forces at the top here. You've got the push. So for me, it was that drill not working for me. It was making holes. I didn't need holes. I needed wall plug. I didn't have wall plugs. It was a nightmare trying to put that up. I butchered those walls. It pushed me away from using that drill. I don't want to use that drill. Okay, it wasn't helping me. It's a push away from the product and service. Through to the pull. And the pull in this case was it was £3 or €3 or $3. It was a cheap, easy investment to try this new product. It was simple and it was straightforward. It was pulling me towards it. Right? Lightweight. And then you've got 2 further forces. You've got anxiety and inertia and attachment. Now, anxiety is, well, what happens if it's going to fall off the wall? I'm really worried about this. It's going to fall off the wall. I'm really worried. Anxiety is a strong emotion. And then the other force you have is inertia and attachment. In this case, should be, well, I'm a man. I should be able to use a drill. Come on, I'm a man. How can I? My wife can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. I should be able to use a drill. You've also got things like sunk cost that comes into this as well. I've spent £90 on this drill. I should try and endeavor to use it. Okay, that fits into inertia and attachment. Or the worst thing with inertia is you just don't bother to put the pictures up. You just leave those holes in the wall. Again, inertia is a strong force keeping you in your current solution. Now, those 2 yellow forces at the bottom are strong, really strong emotional forces. And the reality is the only force you've got at the top is pull, is pulling people to your new thing. And you've got to overcome anxiety and inertia and attachment. Push, you've got no control of because that's your competitors making a mistake. So you've got to think about all of these 4 forces and plot these 4 forces out for the products and services you're working on to get a full overview of what messaging and features you need to get people to come to your service. This stuff's great for your product marketing team, for the marketing team. This is all the ammunition they need to successfully market your product. Because again, your product could be amazing, but if it's not marketed or sold, doesn't matter, it's not going to be successful. And the 4 forces can help you get there with that. Jobs to be done then. And this is what really jobs to be done comes down to, is it's helping you understand and define the problem in as much detail and clarity as possible through those 3 different lenses. The lens of the timeline, so what's happening over time. The lens of the job stories, the emotional, the social, the functional things of the things that your product is trying to do, and the 4 forces of progress. They all are 3 different lenses to look at your product under or through. They help you understand where you sit in terms of your competition, and they help you understand what you need to do as a product designer, a product manager, or a creator to make the features that's going to make your product better. But equally, they're also great at telling your marketing team how to talk about your product to your users, so that when the marketing team make the promise of the product, you deliver on it because you're aligned around the same jobs that across that organization, the same jobs that people are hiring your product and service to do. That's what I love about jobs to be done. All right, folks, we're going to do an example. I'm going to have a sip of tea and we're going to do a little example. So if you think about some questions, we'll do a little example before we finish, about 10 minutes, then we'll come back in with some questions. But have a chat, drop something in the chat. If you've got anything, any thoughts on what I've talked about, drop me a question. I'll have a sip of tea and we'll carry on. Oh, I do love a cup of tea. Very, very English thing to do, isn't it? Really drink a cup of tea. Anyway, how are you all doing? Is everybody doing okay out there? Good. Are you still here with me? Yes, you are. Great. Say hello in the chat if you're there. I used to be during my university days, I used to be a late night radio DJ, and it reminds me of that, this talking away and then just hoping there's people out there listening. We're still here. Good to hear. I knew you would be. All right, let's do a practical example of how to do this. So, how can you take jobs to be done right now and improve your current product or service? And I'm going to take an example of another online retailer called John Lewis. And we'll talk about why they are missing and what they could do better based on a simple problem. Oh yeah, you need to build a toy box for my daughter and hire your wife to wallpaper. She's already wallpapered the room. It's looking amazing next door. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I should learn to use that drill a little bit more. But the thing is, when you've got kids, any free time goes. Anyway, right, back to this. Let me talk about this. So this is a project I did a few years ago for AO.com, who are an online white goods retailer. And we were looking at, well, why do people buy fridges differently from the way that they buy washing machines or washer dryers? They buy these two things differently. The behaviors are hugely different. The data behind each of them is hugely different. And so we did some work looking at classic electronics appliance stores and shops. And if you look at any appliance store, you see that they are designed in this same way. Fridges, refrigerators are right at the front. They get loads of space in the store. They spend a lot of time people spend a lot of time looking at them. Then you look at the washing machines and the washers, they're hidden at the back and they're stacked high, often a bit darker, not the best light. Not many times, people don't spend much time looking at them. And so we asked ourselves the question, well, why? Why does people spend more time buying fridges than they do washing machines? Because washing machines are far more complicated, much more complex pieces of technology. Yet fridges, people spend the time and effort looking at. So we did some research to understand that. And we saw this. You go into people's homes, you see this, okay? You may well have a refrigerator just like this. And the refrigerator in this case is the center of your family's life. It's got pictures on it. It's got your kids' school homework, what kids after school clubs, kids' wedding invitations for a wedding you're going to next summer, postcards from friends of yours. They become a center of the kitchen. They become a center for the family. Or you may be thinking that I've got a very clean kitchen. This is my cousin's kitchen, actually. And she's got this beautiful yellow Smeg fridge. It's a fantastic centerpiece for her kitchen. And again, this is how people buy, and this is why people buy and hire refrigerators. They hire them for two very different reasons. Yet, if you look at how they're sold online, they're not sold in that way. So this is John Lewis. Now, apologies if there's any John Lewis people here. Give me a call afterwards if you want to chat about this, but I could absolutely dramatically increase your online sales. Give me a call. Anyway, let's look at this. This is how John Lewis is selling fridges online. There is nothing in here about the visual aspect of this fridge. There's nothing in there, okay? People buying this Smeg fridge are buying it because it's beautiful. People are buying these fridges because they are the centerpiece of your kitchen. There's nothing on here that talks about why people are buying this fridge. There's nothing in here about helping you buy this fridge visually, nothing. The imagery's not very good. If you look at the description, John Lewis and Partners JLFW8. I mean, come on, who cares about the name of the product? It's got A double plus energy rating. Who cares? Any of you ever bought a fridge based on the energy rating? Of course not. Of course you haven't. It doesn't help in any way in terms of buying. It's white. There's something useful in the description at least. But there's nothing in here helping you buy the fridge. Nothing. Yet if you jump down into the comments, you can suddenly find the jobs that people are hiring this fridge to do. Okay, I came with the intention of looking for a particular brand of fridge, expecting to visually make a choice. Nothing on this website is helping you do that. In-store viewing of various items. People are going and buying, looking in the store, then going and buying it online later on, because again, you can't visually understand and see the product. You can't. There's nothing on the website that helps you do that. And then you look at other comments as well. Amazing look. Looks beautiful. Again, there's nothing here that tells you that. These images don't portray how beautiful this fridge looks in the reality. It's a crappy product image, obviously come from the manufacturer. Nothing in there that's going to help you decide to buy this fridge. Yet all of the clues to this are in the comments, right in the reviews right there. Okay. Anytime you want to understand how to improve your e-commerce product page, go and look at the reviews. It's the simplest thing you can do to understand what people and how people are trying to buy your product, why they are hiring your product and service to do this. Yet when people buy washing machines, it's different. So people buy fridges because of how they look. People buy washing machines when their washing machine breaks. Okay, because they are so complicated. They are, it's kilos and kilos of metal spinning at thousands of RPM. They're going to break, and they're going to break catastrophically when they go. Fridges don't catastrophically break. Maybe your seal gets a bit dirty. Maybe your fridge gets a bit mucky. Maybe it's not as cold as it once was, but it's not going to catastrophically fail. Washing machines catastrophically fail. And again, if you've got kids and family at home, you do not want your washing machine failing, because when it's gone, it's gone. You suddenly can't do your washing anymore. And you don't want to go to the laundrette. That's not the world we live in anymore. Unless perhaps you live in Switzerland or New York City. We don't want to do that anymore. Sorry, apologies for New Yorkers or Swiss. I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form in a different way. But you understand, living without a washing machine is difficult. The same's true, exactly the same's true of a dishwasher. Okay. Once you've got one, you cannot live without one again. And when it breaks, you need one now. We need the new one by Friday. It's broken. Oh, we've got all this washing to do. School kids, washing. We need our washing machine now. So when it breaks, it goes wrong quite catastrophically. You can't fix it. You need a new one. You want that new one by Friday. Yet let's look at what John Lewis and how John Lewis sell these. And you can see here, there's nothing in here helping you make that buying choice. It's the same template as the fridge. Again, this is a triple plus energy rating. Great. That's just what I want to know. It's not what I want to know. Okay. 1400 RPM spin. Reminds me of my drills. I don't care about RPM. All right. I want a new washing machine that washes my kids' clothes now, and I need it by Friday. There's nothing in here about getting something to you quickly. Free UK delivery, great, but can you get it to me quickly? You're going to pick up the old one because the old one's broken. I don't want the old one there as well. I've not got space in my house for 2 washing machines. Pick up the old one, get me the new one by Friday. Do it now, please. And again, if we look at the reviews of this washing machine, okay, this washing machine lasted 10 years. Okay, people want it to last. They know these things break. They want reliability. And equally, they want a 30-minute quick wash. That's what you want. I want to know if it does a quick wash. So again, if my kids' clothes are dirty, I can get them washed quickly. I don't want it doing that kind of stuff as well. Other things that are quite uniquely UK is we have our washing machines in the kitchen. So we like them quiet. I know that's very unusual for a lot of you Europeans and Americans out there. Yes, we have our washing machines in the kitchen. Yes, it's weird, I know, but we like them quiet for that very reason. And look, no issues with delivery as they took the old machine away. That's what people need to know when they're hiring John Lewis. The product and service are getting this new washing machine. These are the things they want to know, and these are buried in the reviews. There's nothing in these 2 product pages that helps you buy either one, yet they're identical. The product pages are the same, yet we've established these 2 products are bought extremely differently. Okay, you want big pictures of your fridge. You don't care about a big picture of your washing machine. It's buried, it's hidden. You don't care about a visual display for it, yet you do care about the features it's got. I do want to know if it does a 30-minute wash. I do want to know you're going to take away the old one. I don't necessarily care too much about my fridge's features. As long as it keeps things cool, which it probably will, it doesn't matter. Features are not important, yet for washing machines, certain ones are, yet they're not surfaced here. This, John Lewis using the same template for both of these 2 very, very different buying behaviors. These 2 templates don't help with the same job here. Again, if you're John Lewis, separate templates, separate designs for separate different products. Okay, that's where your edge is going to come. That's where your innovation is going to come right now, is by separating these 2 products out. And the same is true across e-commerce. If this is your world, no, not many products are bought in the same way. You don't buy products the same way all the time. Fridges and washing machines immediately seem similar, but the reality is they're bought very differently. Jobs to be done tells us that. The jobs are different for these 2 products. Okay. So taking jobs to be done then, as I mentioned before, jobs to be done is great for defining the problem. And what jobs to be done can really be usefully used for is then to take these problems and solutions into a design sprint. Okay. Jobs to be done works perfectly and fantastically with design sprints. You've got a full definition of the problem. You can take it into a design sprint and solve it. It works brilliantly with design sprints. Jobs to be done also works great for senior executives because it started from the Harvard Business Review. The dog, you see the dog's waking up slightly behind me. Um, he's a C-suite friendly dog, my dog. So you can see this. The benefit of this is the articles for this come from Harvard Business Review. It's MBA friendly. It's friendly to the business folks. And really, what Jobs to be Done is a user-centered design framework that's business friendly. It comes from a business place. So if you want and you are struggling with user-centered design in your organization says, yeah, we want to be more customer focused, but you're not, Jobs to be Done can help because, again, it's got the business chops, it's got the user centered design chops, and it's also got the ability to work very well with your existing processes like agile design development, Google Design Sprints. It's fantastic for supercharging your product planning and delivery approach. Great for that. Oh, look, I did manage to get my daughter's picture up. This is a famous view of Bristol. If you know anything about Bristol, the Clifton Suspension Bridge. It's up on the wall. It's straight. It looks good. I feel proud to have put this up, which is why I'm showing all of you this. It worked for me. So thanks very much for your time, everybody. This talk and a video of this talk is at that address up here, which I'll copy and stick into the chat right now. Have you got any questions? I'll have a sip of water before we talk about these. Hello.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks, Joe. That was a brilliant talk. And yeah,
No, thanks very much.
also very topical for me as I've recently moved and had to buy a fridge and a washing machine, and it was a nightmare. I also opted for those sticky strips as well, as I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have any walls left if I was trusted with a drill.
The same way.
Cool. So yeah, we've got a question here from anonymous. Says, hi Joe, nice talk. I have a question. You were talking about the little hire being the situation where the customer buys a product but then doesn't use it as often as you'd like as a company.
Yeah.
This is a different definition than Clayton Christensen's, who defines the big hire as the moment the customer purchases your product, and then the little hires are the moments they use the product after the big hire. Which is the most used definition in the Jobs to be Done industry?
Honestly, I wouldn't worry too much about this. And I think this is one of the biggest complaints of the Jobs to be Done industry is it can often conflict itself a little bit. Clayton does talk about the little hire being a point where something isn't reused and isn't used in the same way that it's designed to be, and then you're not satisfied and you leap back further into what's going on. So yeah, it can be using the definition you want. I wouldn't overly worry about definitions too much in terms of Jobs to be Done. The one I've talked about here, I found to be the most useful and the most practical ways of talking about it. But yeah, you absolutely need to talk about little hires alongside the big hire of it first being used to keep usage up, definitely.
Awesome, thank you. And a question here from Simon. Can you explain in a little more detail how you would use Jobs to be Done as a competitor analysis tool?
Yeah, so I think I showed you the 4 forces diagram way back where in my slides here. Let me jump to it. I find that to be the place to start here. Here we go. Where are they? The 4 forces is a great way of talking about competition. You can start to frame yourself against it. And this is probably the most tactical way of using Jobs to be Done in the short term. Is you can start to look at the 4 forces that you are operating when your customer is looking at your competition versus you. And you can use this in all kinds of situations. I've seen agencies use this to see how they compete against other design agencies. I've seen people use this to when they're hiring engineers at tech companies to understand what forces are at play to keep an engineer in their current role versus jumping to the company they're at. It's a great way of giving you the landscape of your competition. And I really like the 4 forces for that, definitely. So I would use this and start with this 4 forces here.
Awesome, thanks, Joe. Next question here from Lisa. Hi, Lisa. How do you relate or compare outcome-driven design or innovation versus Jobs to be Done?
So it depends what you're talking about here. So this is something I've not touched upon too much here, but there's different strands of Jobs to be done. And if you're talking about outcome-driven innovation, which is a part of that from Anthony Ulwick, it's not a world that there's different flavors and different approaches of Jobs to be done. And outcome-driven design innovation is a flavor of that. And that's by an understanding under a gentleman called Anthony Ulwick, who's written lots of books on Jobs to be Done that talks about that. I favor the stuff that Clayton Christensen talks about and uses, which is much more practical. So really there are 2 schools of Jobs to be done. The one I've talked about here, which is much more focused around Clayton Christensen, and some other elements that I use. I don't tend to use the stuff that's based around outcome driven or ODI stuff versus Jobs to be Done as well. They do complement each other. Of course they do. And again, if you can define jobs properly, you can start to look at the outcomes that people are trying to do. Really, that's what job stories do, is talk about outcomes. So you can start to play it and fit it alongside that. It can also fit in a gentle way with some of the stuff that Alexander Osterweiler is doing with Strategin. So the business model canvas, or the business model generation. If you look at some of the canvases around that and the value proposition design canvases, it works pretty well with those too. Again, these things complement them. They're not designed to necessarily replace them. You can take the best bits from some of the other theories you're using and take the best bits from jobs to be done and create your own Uber product framework. They complement each other at points. Sometimes they compete with each other. I wouldn't overly worry about it too much. If you've seen something in here today that you think is useful, take that small piece of jobs to be done. Don't take the whole jobs to be done thing. Maybe take the four forces and use that. Don't feel like you have to take everything from jobs to be done and replace everything else you're doing at the moment in your terms of your product decision approach or process at the moment. Okay, next.
Awesome, thank you. Now, up next, we've got a question from Thomas. How do you decide when to stop formulating jobs to be done? They can be done on various levels of detail, right?
Yeah. I think you need to decide which level you're operating. I'm going to jump back to the ladder, actually. That's the best way to think about it. So you can start to see where you sit. So again, you need to have that conversation with your organization. So if you're a hardware drill manufacturer, do you want to get into the point where you're creating bits of sticky plastic to stick pictures up? You need to have that conversation with your organization. At what point do you want, where's the ceiling of innovation in your organization? What's the appetite for where you want to be? And that then gives you an area to focus on. And I'd suggest looking at the ladder as a place to do that. Okay. Are drill manufacturers going to get to the point where they're creating services to remodel kids' bedrooms? Probably not. Okay. Are drill manufacturers going to create products like No More Nails? Possibly. Maybe, probably not. But you've got to have that upfront conversation with your organization. Okay, that's going up in terms of innovation, in terms of jobs. You can also go down as well. So you can talk about this concept of putting up a picture. There's lots of detail that sits beneath that. And the way to think about that is to think about, classically in user stories, we talk about epics as a story that describes lots of things beneath it. You can talk about that same thing within jobs to be done. So an epic could be putting up a picture, and you can have a series of job stories underneath that are all the elements of that, like keeping it, making it so it's straight, it's not going to fall off the wall, all those kinds of things as well. So you can layer it deeper as well through the concept of epics. Equally, you can put those jobs on the timeline if you wanted to as well, and place them on that timeline in different phases. And you can start to do them by time. There's no absolute best way of organizing your jobs. It's just whatever's going to work for you and your product and service when you're getting there, really. I don't like to be too dogmatic with the way that I say you should do jobs to be done. There's plenty of people who do that, not me.
Awesome, brilliant. Thank you so much, Joe. I think that's all the questions we've got. So yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your presentation today.
No, thank you, everybody else. And do stay in touch, folks, as well. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm there. Just find Joe Leech on LinkedIn. I'll come and say hello. I publish a lot of this stuff on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. I've got a whole blog that I write a lot about user-centered design and product management and jobs to be done. So come and find me on there. I've got loads of stuff that I publish and talk about around this stuff too. So no, thank you.
Awesome, brilliant. Thank you very much, Joe. We've got.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks to everybody in the Mensa as well. Big round of applause to Henry and the team for putting this
thank you very much
on as well. So thank you. I really enjoyed my time. So say thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome, brilliant. Up next, we've got Jorge Arango in just over an hour. So it's hopefully see everyone there. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.